Good afternoon, everybody. It is Dan Krueger from DK Fitness, where we help people achieve their fitness and wellness goals in a fun and sustainable way through optimized nutrition coaching. And today, I'm going to teach you guys about the good fats and the bad fats and how to tell the difference. So I think we've all heard of the term omega fatty acids before. If not, we'll explain what that is today. And most importantly, we're going to call out the bad fats and make sure that we understand what the difference is between a good fat and a bad fat, and how to get more of the good stuff and avoid the bad stuff, so you can navigate the food landscape, because not all fat is bad. It's actually an essential part of our diet. It is an essential macronutrient where if we don't have fat coming in from dietary sources, we are not going to function properly. There's going to be all sorts of problems. So let's get into it. So when we're talking about healthy fats, we've probably heard of the omegas before. There's omega-3, 6, 7, 9s. So what the heck are all these things? Where do we get them? Are they good? Are they bad? How do you navigate all this stuff? In a nutshell, we're going to break it down by omega-6, 7, 9. So we're going to go through them category by category, explain what they are, how the body uses them, and how we can avoid the bad ones. So there's a few kinds of saturated fats and there's a few kinds of unsaturated fats. There's going to be poly and mono unsaturated fats, and the only difference between those two is that mono unsaturated fat has one carbon molecule that's not saturated, whereas poly have more than one molecule that's unsaturated. Now, when you have unsaturated carbon molecules, look at those as opportunities for something to go wrong. They're less stable nutrients, which means you have to treat them properly and have them at the right temperature in order for them to maintain their biological value. For example, olive oil has a very low smoke point, which means that it actually goes rancid and loses its biological value when heated up high enough, which is why it's not the best one for cooking with. It is a very healthy fat, but we just need to be careful with it to make sure that we keep it intact and we don't damage it so that our body can still extract the value from it. So omega-7s and omega-9s actually work together very synergistically, which means they assist each other in providing their nutritional benefit to the body, both of which are going to be very good anti-inflammatories, reducing your blood pressure and thus reducing your risk of heart disease and other chronic diseases down the road. It's very common for people who have high blood pressure for genetic reasons to go after a low sodium diet. That's kind of the conventional wisdom when it comes to trying to maintain or manage high blood pressure, when in fact it might be more beneficial to actually include more omega-7s and 9s instead of actively trying to reduce salt. So another way of thinking about it there. Obviously talk to your doctor about what you should be doing, but you could also look at including more nutritionally valuable food as opposed to trying to limit certain elements. So think about that. But no, omega-7s and 9s, very good for reducing blood pressure. And then we have omega-6s and omega-3s. Now these are commonly going to be coming in from a lot of the same sources. However, omega-6s are actually not the types of omega fats that we want to be getting. There's a caveat to this, but more in a nutshell, omega-6s are actually going to be promoting inflammation in the body. And those are going to be coming things like from canola oil and vegetable oils and things that traditionally we thought weren't all that bad. Depending on how old you are and what your parents used when growing up, you may or may not have heard that there was anything wrong with these vegetable oils. But they actually do promote inflammation in the body. Now, the caveat to that is that omega-3s can offset that inflammation. So if you can get enough omega-3s to offset the omega-6s that are coming in through your diet, then you should be just fine. Now, we don't need to avoid omega-6s like the plague, like we will another culprit that I'll talk about in a second, but just make sure that your ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s is actually greater, meaning there's more omega-3 fatty acids coming in through your diet than omega-6s. So now we get to the bad guy in the fat world, and that's going to be trans fat. Now that one I'm sure we've heard of somewhere before. If nothing else, you've probably seen it advertised for not being in products that are on the shelf. If a manufacturer has the ability to advertise that there is no trans fat in their product, regardless of how much total fat or total calories are in there, they're going to jump at the opportunity to put that on there, because I think everybody these days is starting to associate the word trans fat with bad. But why is it bad? What the heck is trans fat? Well, in a nutshell, trans fat is something that has been created and modified at the molecular level to be stable on the shelf and to be able to be kept in stores and used in processed foods. It stays at room temperature quite well. So specifically what trans fat is a polyunsaturated fat, and what's been done is it's been modified at the molecular level to synthetically become saturated. So what they do in doing this is they add a hydrogen molecule to the equation. That makes it a saturated fat, but that also makes it something that doesn't exist in nature and your body doesn't quite know what to do with. So when you eat this product or foods with this product in there, your body isn't quite sure how to process it. It actually takes 51 days for your body to break down trans fats. And it's tough to find these days because food manufacturers are getting pretty tricky with how they label their products so that they can slip that ingredient in there and call it by another name because most people are going to recognize the word trans fat. So keep your eye open for hydrogenated. That's the key word, because when they take these polyunsaturated fats and they add a hydrogen molecule, that's hydrogenated. So when they take these polyunsaturated fats and they add that hydrogen atom, they're called hydrogenated at that point, or partially hydrogenated. You'll see both on nutritional labels. So you may not see the word trans fats, but you might see hydrogenated vegetable oils, partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, or hydrogenated corn oil, or something along those lines. Typically you're going to see this in good old standard peanut butter, just the Jif and the Skippy, the kind of stuff you can leave on a shelf for 10 years and it'll probably still be fine. Those have hydrogenated oils in there. What that means is they can sit on the shelf, because if you get an all-natural peanut butter that's just mashed up peanuts, the fats won't, they'll go bad after a certain amount of time, so they have to be kept in the refrigerator. Well, Jif and Skippy want to save some money and they just want to leave it on a shelf, so they put in this harsh hydrogenated vegetable oil, which doesn't go bad at room temperature. They can leave their stock out there forever, no problem, but your body does not know what the heck that ingredient is, and not only does it sit around for 51 days while it gets broken down, it's very likely it's going to get stored as fat in that time because your body doesn't really recognize it as an energy source, and it's going to cause massive inflammation, which is linked to just about every chronic disease out there. So if you can avoid trans fat and hydrogenated oils at all costs, you're going to be in much better shape than the general population that's consuming these types of products. So let's get a little bit more specific and let's narrow down what some of these sources are of the good omega fats. I think we've identified some of the bad trans fats. We know to get rid of those, but what should we actually get into our diet and use for our dietary fat sources? Let's start with omega-3s, and you're going to see some overlap here between the different omegas. There's going to be some products, some foods that show up in a few different categories, and that's just fine. But specifically when we're talking about omega-3s, fantastic sources of omega-3 fatty acids would be salmon, trout, flaxseed oil, avocados, just to name a few. When we're looking at omega-6s, we've got flaxseed oil again, grapeseed oil, nuts like pine nuts and pistachios, and acai. Now when we're looking at omega-7s, we've again got some fish in there, salmon, tuna, mackerel, as well as some nuts, like macadamia nuts. And as far as the omega-9s, olive oil, avocados, almonds, peanuts, pecans, cashews, and macadamia nuts. So those are some of the things you want to try to include in your diet. It's going to be tough to really find all the products that have trans fat in there, but in a nutshell, if you go to the grocery store and you stick to the perimeter, you stay around the outside of the store, you stay out of the aisles, you're going to be finding those polysaturated fats. The nuts, the fish in the meat department, and things like that. And then those trans fats, that's what you're going to find in packaged goods in those aisles. It can stay good forever. Things in boxes, things in cans, the processed foods. You don't need to read over every label. When in doubt, just stick to that perimeter. Produce, fruit, meat, nuts, that stuff on the outside of the store is where you want to hang out. So I hope this helps you navigate the food landscape. If you've got any other questions about specifics, feel free to shoot me a message at dkrueger@dkruegerfit.com. You can also cruise on by dkruegerfit.com and check out all the other free information that we have available, both nutrition and education just like this, as well as recipes and cooking videos. If you're interested in talking to me about one-on-one coaching, reach out to me at dkrueger@dkruegerfit.com. We'll get you on a customized program and get you seeing results as soon as possible. I'll see you guys in the next video.